So Dave, what I gathered from that is that Kai doesn't let like dummies just join the boot camp.
Yeah, I'm
So
going to cancel my
No.
application. Well, I was just about to hit send before this interview.
I actually do have a question about Elon Musk. Do you kind of agree with his doomsday outlook when it comes to AI?
I don't think any letter from Elon Musk or Steve Wozniak or any famous people can stop that.
Business over drinks. Business over drinks. This is Dave and Tom. This is business over drinks.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Business Over Drinks. My name is Teng and I'm calling in from slightly not so sunny Singapore at the moment.
I'm calling in from Australia, and it is not sunny whatsoever. It is evening right now.
So thanks for joining us. We've got a really interesting show today. I know I say that all the time, but we actually do have an interesting show. It's somebody that we've kind of wanted on the podcast for a little bit of time. We've had to reschedule because of health issues. My health issues, not Dave. Dave's completely healthy, fine with his big smiley face. But before we kind of get into it, why don't I just do a really quick introduction about Kai? So today we got Kai Yuan Neo. Please correct me if I get your pronunciation wrong, Kai. So he's the founder and CEO at Rocket Academy, which is a live online coding bootcamp based in Singapore, but they're actually expanding to Hong Kong at the moment, so which is really really cool. The focus of the company is to really help career switchers kind of enter the industry or enter the job of software engineers, right? So it's really cool. So you were launched in 2020. You've trained over 1,000 students, and I thought one of the most interesting things that was kind of pounded into us by your colleague Jill was the fact that you got 100%, maybe not placement rate, but offer rate, right, for all your graduates from the boot camp, which is super not scalable. And I've got a question about that for
Yes.
you later. So prior to Rocket Academy, Kai actually, you're actually a real software engineer as well, right? You studied computer science at Stanford, and you actually worked as an engineer at Meta, Alibaba, and a few other companies. I
Yes.
mean, this is fascinating. I think it's really cool that we're actually getting someone who's kind of walking the walk while talking the talk at the same time. So yeah, why don't we just jump straight into it? As I guess,
Yes.
why don't you tell us what you're drinking?
Awesome. Well, I'm currently nursing a cough that I've had for the last week, so I'm drinking this herbal drink called
Excellent.
Peipaco.
Cough
with
syrup
Chinese
addiction.
formulation. Yeah, so I'm basically drinking cough syrup right now. Cheers.
Cheers to that. I'm nursing a different kind of sickness with Prosecco. So I just moved out. So anyone who's been watching us knows that changing my background. We just moved out, so we just invited my parents over, and we just had a few glasses of this. So this is the remnants of that day, and it's nice and sweet. I don't really drink Prosecco, but I'm enjoying it.
Yeah. So Dave has a drinking problem. I'm drinking very little because like I said, I had health problems. But I'm getting a lot better now. But I'm just having a couple of drinks with whiskey. It's something that, as you can see, the bottle's gone down. It wasn't only me, but sometimes you gotta drink to get through the day. So, all right, we've got through all the
Especially
usuals.
Mondays,
Yeah, Mondays.
Monday mornings.
Kai, welcome to the
Thank you.
podcast, and thanks a
Thanks
lot
for
for
having
joining us
me.
today. Awesome. I'm gonna jump straight into the first question, man, because this is
Awesome.
actually my question because I work with a lot of education companies in my career over the last 15, 16 years doing what I do. So why edtech? Like, why do you choose edtech as an industry?
Funny thing is, I didn't choose edtech as an industry, in the sense that, when I was thinking about what business to start, I wasn't like, oh, edtech, like that's what I want to do. It started off more as a specific problem that I experienced while working as a software engineer, which is that we just couldn't find enough good software engineers that we wanted to hire. And I felt like universities were not producing enough graduates at the right caliber, and coding bootcamps at the time were also not producing enough graduates at the right caliber. And so I felt like there at the time when I was thinking around different ideas to do, I stumbled upon an idea in the US, which was building an online coding bootcamp, essentially coding bootcamp training adults who didn't necessarily study computer science to take a short course, a couple months, and become a software engineer. There was this model that was doing that online, which I felt like was more scalable in the US. And I thought to bring that to Singapore and Southeast Asia to try and build something that can train larger numbers of software engineers at scale. And that's how I got started with Rocket Academy. So it wasn't like, oh, I know I want to work in edtech. It started with this problem of trying to create more software engineers. And I saw a model that I thought had potential to create more software engineers in a scalable fashion, which is why I ended up pursuing it.
So you not knowing that there was a lack of software engineers, is this because was this through your experience in Meta and things like that?
Yeah. Well, yeah. So as we know, I mean, Meta now, of course, has had layoffs, and other companies have had layoffs as well. But throughout the last 10 years, companies were just rapidly growing in the technology industry, even throughout COVID. And while I was working as a software engineer in the US, in Jakarta, Indonesia, in Singapore, I had everybody was trying to find more software engineers. It wasn't even just people that I was working with directly. It was like friends of friends that were indirect. They were like asking, "Hey, do you know any good?" Even in fact, people are still asking me, like, "Do you know any good software engineers to recommend?" And so I thought that, hey, if we can create a good supply of these software engineers using under tapped talent, so to say, like people who didn't study computer science, I think that could be a promising business.
So, like, but do you think, like, because you mentioned that like Meta is doing layoffs and like basically everyone has done layoffs, right?
Yes.
Do you think that this tech hiring winter is going to impact your business in any way? Because that would just mean that now there's a glut of engineers, right? Or at least there's more talent in the market at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't have all the like industry high level data, but from my perspective as someone who runs a school and my graduates are applying for jobs, for sure it has impacted. The tech hiring market has impacted our alumni who are applying for jobs because they are getting interviews at a slower rate than they were, say, a year ago when every company was actively hiring software engineers. And so for sure, the short answer is yes, the tech hiring winter has affected Rocket Academy's business because alumni are finding it harder to get jobs. But the caveat is that there are still interviews happening. Right? Companies are still getting back to the alumni, even if they're at slower rates. They're still getting back. They're still interviewing the alumni, and they're still getting, some of them are still getting offers. Right. So yeah, it is only a matter of time before the tech industry rises again. To put it dramatically, right? Like it's in the next 10 years, more and more of our daily lives will be done through software or automated through software. Like we can already do so much through our phones, it's only going to increase. And that software needs to be built by someone. It's built by software engineers. Of course, nowadays with the help of AI, right? So software engineers can do even more. The new software engineers, even those coming from Rocket Academy, will be, you have AI in their toolkit, just like they currently have Google in their toolkit. So software engineers will be even more powerful, and the demand for software engineers will only increase because there will be new jobs for the creation of new software. I'm optimistic about the future. I think the tech hiring winter will end at some point in the next few months or next year, and we will see the market come back.
Hey Tong, man, the market is pretty crazy right now. Are you still investing in the stock market?
I'm trying to, man. It's not been really great for me. I'm a terrible investor. I don't spend enough time kind of looking at stuff, and I don't actually understand most of the things that are going on right now. So, for the most part, I get maybe, if I'm lucky, 5 to 7% returns, which is really not enough to keep with rising prices, man. Do you know what your house costs in Singapore at the moment?
50 billion gazillion dollars?
Pretty much Zimbabwean dollars, but yeah.
So anyway, why settle for 7% returns in your portfolio? With market turbulence and passive investing strategies just struggling out there, picking the right stocks for your portfolio has never been more important, which is why Motley Fool Stock Advisor issues 2 stock picks every month. And historically, their average stock recommendation has returned 400%. Compare that to 7% as of April 10, 2023. And their long-term buy and hold approach is so easy, virtually anyone can do it. And listeners of Business Over Drinks can now access Motley Fool Stock Advisor for just $89 for the first year, a full $110 off the list price. What are you waiting for? Visit zen.ai/businessfool. That's zen.ai/businessfool to start your investing journey today.
It's $110 discount off $199 per year list price. Membership will renew automatically annually at the end of the current list price. And don't forget our promo code, which is business over drinks, one word. So remember, guys, use business over drinks, one word for your big discount.
Yeah, you need it for the offer. So zen.ai/businessfool. If you forget the link, go to our show notes at businessoverdrinks.com. It's interesting you spoke about AI because that is kind of like a hot topic everywhere right
Yes.
now, and a lot of people are crying that it's gonna wipe out another industry. It's gonna wipe out
Yeah.
a lot of people's jobs. But you seem quite optimistic about it.
Yeah.
Why? And you kind of hinted that it will be more of a support tool for software engineers. Can you talk more into that?
Yes. Yeah. So, nowadays, I think the hot topic for AI for the past few months has been ChatGPT, because that is the new thing that just came out.
Mhm.
And what that enables people to do is it enables us to get quick answers. I mean, generally reasonable answers, not always correct, but reasonable answers to the questions we have about, for example, problems with our code, or if we want to create simple boilerplate. When I say boilerplate, I mean simple repetitive code, right? For like standard types of applications, we can ask this AI to generate it for us. And what that allows us to do is it allows us to be more efficient at coding. Right? It allows us to find the bugs that are in our code faster, and it allows us to create standard code faster without having to think too much about it. And we can just tweak it afterward for our specific needs. So essentially, every software engineer now has the potential to become, X percent. It may not be 2X, but it may be like 25, 50% more effective by using such AI tools. And the way I think about it, the way I think about how this AI is going to impact our industry as software engineers is, I think about it like how Google impacted the industry of software engineers. Like, it used to be, if you're a software engineer and you need to figure out how to write some piece of software, you actually gotta physically go and open the book and like read what the syntax is. But now with Google, you can just say, like, how do I write this? And then Google will just tell you, right? And with ChatGPT, it's another level. It's not asking ChatGPT, how do I write this? It's just asking ChatGPT to write it for you, and it will write the basic, the gist of it for you, right? So to me, it's a productivity tool. The job of software engineers is not going away, but it will make every single software engineer more effective. And those software engineers who do not embrace new technology like this will fall behind, just like any software engineer today who doesn't use Google will be also at a disadvantage.
No, but that's fascinating because I mean, looking at how quickly things are evolving, like with Auto GPT and everything like that, I think we're at the cusp of something that's gonna be different, right?
Yes.
Most of us probably don't know what it's gonna look like. I mean, let's take a step back for a minute because I think before we kind of get in the weeds about coding AI and into the depths of that, right? What I mentioned during intro was the fact that you guys have got 100% placement rate, yeah, or offer
Yes.
rate at least. Like, first of all, how? Secondly, that's not going to be scalable, especially as you'll get
Yeah.
like much higher numbers. You're going to get
Yes.
people coming through that don't like just don't
Yes.
won't get through, right? How first of all, how do you guys reach that? And secondly, like
Yeah.
what do you think would be like a good level or an acceptable level of success post
Yeah.
Rocket Academy bootcamp?
So we're very proud of how well our alumni have been doing. I think that is why people choose Rocket Academy at the end of the day, or why people go to boot camps in the first place, because they want to get a job in the field. And so that is our probably the most important thing that we do, is get people jobs. And so we're very proud at how well our alumni have done. The way we do it, there are three parts to our success. One is selectivity. So this may not come as a surprise to people who have worked in education before, but we screen our students up front
Mhm.
such that we only accept people who we believe have what they need to make it in this industry. We only accept those people into the course. And the way we do the screening is we have people do an introductory course. So it's not like you have to have some kind of fancy degree or fancy job before joining Rocket. Everyone can apply. Everyone can go through the introductory course. If you can complete the introductory course and you can pass a coding interview that we do with our applicants, then you can get accepted into the bootcamp. So that's how we do screening. Screening is super important because it means that the students are of a high caliber, and employers like that because they can trust that everybody coming through Rocket Academy is of high caliber. They have more of an incentive to interview graduates of Rocket Academy overall. The second thing is the comprehensiveness and the quality of our teaching. We pride ourselves on having a more thorough course than many other coding bootcamps out there. For example, we teach data structures and algorithms, which are computer science concepts that are regularly, commonly tested in coding interviews that most other coding bootcamps do not teach. And so our graduates often have an edge in the interviews over many other coding bootcamps because they know these things. They know how to solve these algorithms problems. They've been exposed to the data structures that they need to solve these problems. Mm-hmm. And on top of that, they, of course, do full stack software engineering, and their applications are beautiful and very impressive. I'm super excited for the latest batches of students. The third thing that we do is placement support and job support, essentially. And so what we do is we many other schools, they might, after you graduate, it's like, okay, bye-bye, good luck. I'll check in with you in a couple months, whether you got a job or not. But with Rocket Academy, that's not the case. We actively provide support every single week. We meet with the students who are applying, and we share updates with each other. Right? How are your applications or interviews last week? What applications or interviews are looking for this week? Are there any companies that Rocket Academy can refer you to? We actively reach out to companies on behalf of our alumni to ask them for referrals and opportunities. And we bring in speakers to speak with our alumni and our students from companies that our students and alumni are interested in. So I think those three ingredients are the secret to our success, which is the selectivity, the training, and the placements. And underlying all three of those aspects is the community. The community of the students and the alumni. We have social events every 2 months or so. We bring together the community, and often there are many serendipitous things that can happen. Like alumni A works at company X and they're hiring, and then someone else is also interested in that industry, right? And then they make the connection, and because they didn't know each other before because they weren't in the same batch, but nonetheless they trust that, okay, if you went to Rocket Academy, you have to be at least a certain level, and so they're willing to take it a step forward from there. I think there are these key ingredients that contribute to the success. It doesn't just happen on its own.
But speaking of education, though, it's something it's a very touchy subject for a lot of people around the world. And how about to approach education? I think we can learn from you not only about Rocket Academy, but how to teach people anywhere, right? How do you? Obviously, Rocket Academy is a great school based on objective data. What is your decision-making process on, what do you teach, and then what do you not teach, and then how do you actually teach it to make sure you get the best students you can?
It's all about jobs. People are coming to us, at least for our core product right now. We're looking at different products right now, but the core product that we do is getting people jobs as software engineers. And so when we think about what we want to teach and what we may want to omit, it is largely around what is going to help our students get a job as a software engineer. And so what we decided to put in are the most, for example, we teach with the most popular languages: JavaScript, Python, Bash, right? They use SQL, PostgreSQL, right? These are all some of the most common, popular, for example, we also include Firebase, Google's Firebase in our course, right? These are some of the most popular technologies out there. And so there's the highest likelihood that these technologies will be similar to the ones that they will encounter when they go out in industry. We also teach them data structures and algorithms, which is, like I mentioned earlier, is very useful for coding interviews because a lot of companies rely on that to screen their candidates. In terms of what not to teach, we try not to get too much in the weeds. For example, there are a lot of things that would be nice to teach. For example, when people go out and work as software engineers, there are things related to topics like infrastructure or DevOps or deeper topics in testing and the maintainability of your code. We try not to get too deep into those because there's really no end. there's no end to how much you could learn. And so we try to do what is needed in a relatively short amount of time for people to get good jobs, because we recognize that most of the learning happens on the job. And what we've determined at this point is necessary for people to get those entry-level jobs are full stack software engineering, which includes front end, back end, and a little bit of cloud engineering, as well as data structures and algorithms, which is what you need for interviews. So I would say those four components are the key components. And within each of those, of course, we teach them enough to be dangerous, but we don't belabor the point and get into all the weeds because they may not necessarily need all the weeds to get the jobps.
So you're just answering everyone's needs, essentially. You answer the students' needs, you answer the employer's needs, match made in heaven. This reminds me of, I was clearing out some of my old stuff, and I was looking at my old university projects. I studied, well, I did a dual degree, and one of the degrees was marketing, and I had to write an essay about what a blog was. Rather
Wow.
than rather than asking me just to write a blog post and see how it does in the market, I was asked to write an essay on what a blog is. It's like, this is the most ridiculous. I can't believe I paid thousands of dollars for this class. Anyway, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, that point reminds me. Yeah, so our course is entirely project based. We have no exams, so there's no like, okay, we all gotta cram into this room now and I don't know, write up some exam paper. There's none of that. It's just students in their either individual or small groups. They do 4 projects during our boot camp, and each of those projects is something that they can share with employers. Every single one of them is actually impressive. Like, for example, we had a batch that started recently, and their first projects just blew me away, and that was only their first project.
So there's you don't get a rating at the end of it. It's just you're a graduate.
No. Yeah, we do pass fail. Yeah, it's already so much pressure as it is to switch careers, right? It's a lot of pressure to quit your job or be switching to something that you didn't study formally, and so we just want to make it fun and enjoyable for all of our students. Of course, they have to pass the projects in order to graduate, which they do, but we don't want to make it unnecessarily stressful for people.
Got it. I mean, you're also not trying to have some sort of ranking system as well, right? Because the goal here is no one's competing against each other. Everyone's going straight into
you're competing against yourself, just trying to be the best version of yourself. Yeah.
I mean, so that's really interesting to me because the fact that you guys don't have exams and everything, and the conversation around that is very practical based, right? I'm a big believer in practical based. If you don't know how to do something, reading a very, very complicated theory about it's not going to help you. Do you think that just in general, the education system kind of gets that wrong? Like it's churning out, like Dave said, he wrote a blog about a blog, right? That's weird. That's weird to me. To me, that's weird.
Great. Yeah, I think the education system, I think there are a few foundational things that I feel like I gained from the education. And I don't claim to be an expert, right? I didn't go to a school of education and study education. I'm just a software engineer founder, software bootcamp founder. I think there is a role for both, right? Like if I had not gone to traditional school and learned how to use language effective, like, like write essays or how to like read effectively and solve, I guess, general problems, general teamwork skills, general problem solving skills. I don't think I would have been able to jump in and just learn coding and then be an effective coder, let alone person in the society. Yeah. So I think traditional education has a role to play in helping us gain learning skills. Yeah. Even if the specific topics that we're doing,
may not be
advanced math, for example, may not be the most relevant. Yeah.
So, Dave, the fact that you wrote a blog about a blog helped you write your first book. Just remember that and stop complaining.
No, I actually did. Yes. You know what university did? Because I was so poor, I applied for paid because this was when blogging was still big. So I actually applied for paid blogging. So maybe I can kind of say, but you can also say the same thing for people who don't go to uni and make a success out of their own lives. They still learn teamwork. They still learn management. They still learn to deal with real life things. But I guess to each their own, right?
So maybe I should confirm, right? Because when I was talking about like the education system in general, I was talking maybe like graduate, like university, postgraduate level. Yep. Because if you're talking about foundational education, your primary, your secondary, your high school, obviously there needs to be better structure. There needs to be more theory because you're learning the soft skills for you to become specialized in something. But at university, you're an adult. You can think. You're formulated.
Yeah,
practicality is super important there.
I think so.
And I'll say this from my personal experience because this might not be relevant to people outside of Singapore. Is the fact that Singapore's education system, from a uni perspective, is interesting because they've got their polytechnics and then they've got the universities. Right? Universities are top tier. Polytechnics are second, maybe not second tier, but they're not seen as you go to poly in order to make it to uni. But poly tends to be very practical based. So people you meet from poly have actually done a lot of these things that they go to uni to learn about the theory and the background and the history of it, right? I'm generalizing heavily here. So I've always felt that they maybe had that a little bit backwards from a infrastructure standpoint. Like poly should be where you kind of go to get real world experience into something, and then you can bring that into your job.
Yeah, I mean, I would say as long as you can be an effective worker, right? Like work with a team and communicate about your ideas and actually have the practical skills to succeed. I think that's fine. I think that the place where I think Singapore right now might get stuck is that a lot of employers, they still rely on university as a signal. Right?
Mm.
It's not necessarily about what you learned in university. It's more the fact that you were accepted to university.
Yep.
Therefore, I'm going to take a chance on you because you must be, at least you like were,
Yeah, true.
you could have passed the
Yeah.
test or something.
Yeah, you showed up for 3 years and you were able to do well enough so that they let you through with a degree. I think that was kind of
Yeah.
the thing. They don't care what you learned. You could have learned philosophy and the art of
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
clay
It's almost a
making, right?
checkbox to say, okay, this person passes some threshold of some kind of,
And I think if it's your case with Stanford, Stanford has its reputation, right? And that help you get
yeah.
into Meta. Yeah, and
Yes.
Dave, give you a very honest opinion of what you think about Stanford. Just go on about it.
no, I know Steve Jobs was from there, right? But he didn't obviously didn't graduate. Was Mark Zuckerberg was from Harvard or Stanford?
Harvard.
Harvard.
I only know Stanford has a reputation. A lot of computer science people came from Stanford, right?
Yeah.
So when we were talking to Jill about information about you, and we found out your favorite movie, I was thinking, all right, this guy's got to be into the Matrix or something about
Oh, wow.
conquering
Yeah.
because he's a
Actually,
startup founder. But it turns out to be Space Jam. So how
yeah.
many times have you watched Space Jam, and what's going on with Space
I've
Jam?
actually only watched it maybe 3 times. No, I just loved it as a kid, and that I guess I had
Oh,
a deep
okay, good.
memory of
Original Space Jam, not the LeBron one. God. Okay,
original
good.
Space. Well, I
Yeah,
actually haven't seen that. I haven't seen the latest one. I should watch it,
I've seen the Michael
but
Jordan one too. Yeah, shows our
yeah, the
age.
original one left a deep impression because it's all about the secret sauce, right? The secret water, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, I think the message really resonated with me as a kid. I was like, oh wow, like it's just all inside of you. Yeah. Not to mention Michael Jordan was super famous at the time, and I was into the NBA, and I was like, oh my god, this is the coolest thing, and yeah. So
I've completely forgotten the plot. I just know he was just playing basketball with Bugs Bunny. I forgot it was about fighting.
oh
Do you remember telling you laughing? But do you remember? I don't remember the
Yeah,
plot.
I do. I do. I
Yeah,
actually do know
yeah.
the story about Space Jam. Yeah,
I watched it in the
he was
cinemas too.
he was transported into a different world, man, with aliens and
yes,
stuff. Yeah,
the aliens are trying to destroy the Looney Tunes
Yeah,
world, and then they have
yeah.
to play a basketball match to like win. Yeah.
That was a huge part of my childhood growing up because I'm a massive basketball fan as well. So,
Oh wow. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, if you can't say you liked basketball in the '90s unless you watch Space Jam. Honestly.
Wow. Wow.
whoa, that is a big statement. Even
That's
Colin's
a
like,
big
whoa,
statement.
that's massive.
Just
I
took
was
it
like,
to another
whoa,
level.
okay.
Hey, you gotta love Space Jam. That's all I'm saying. It's a thing. It's
Yeah,
a thing.
yeah. It's
I'm
a
a
good movie.
fan. I'm a
Yeah,
fan.
Kyle will never see you the same way again. So speaking about Stanford and Meta, what was it like interning at Facebook and Alibaba?
Yeah.
Any
Yeah.
interesting anecdotes you can share?
Yeah. Thanks for asking. I felt like I was the worst person in the room, like in the sense that when my first internship was at Alibaba Cloud Computing in Beijing, and I think I was super lucky to get that internship. It was actually through Stanford because Stanford had this relationship with Alibaba, and they wanted to do some cross cultural exchange, and so I happened to apply and be able to go, and all my coworkers were like master's level computer science graduates from some of the top universities in China, like Tsinghua and Beijing University, and they were just talking like way over my head, like they were doing all these, they were doing all these practical coding things that I hadn't learned in university yet, and uh, they were talking about they were talking about machine learning concepts at the time. And funnily enough, they were actually watching videos from Stanford while they were there to bolster their knowledge, because I think at that time China's technology was still a bit behind. And so that was an interesting experience for me, going there and seeing all these great talents in China, and then also learning from the US. the latest technologies. At Meta, and I would say I also, even after my first internship, I didn't know much. Was just learning while I was there, trying to contribute to their platform that they were building at the time. In Meta, during my internships there, I was working on a back-end tool for the first summer, and then the second summer I was working on the iOS Facebook app. And just constantly felt like there were so many practical things that I didn't learn in university that I wish I knew, that we have now included in Rocket Academy's bootcamp. But back then I was like, oh my gosh, like I don't know any of this stuff about version control. I don't know how to navigate the code, the system to debug my code properly. And so I almost felt like a nuisance a lot of the time, just like bugging my teammates to like help me and teach me stuff. But my managers were patient, and I think especially the second summer, my manager really coached me on how to, when you witness a problem, how to work backwards from the evidence of the problem to figure out what the cause is. And since I think that's been game changing for me, not just in coding, but also in life, not to freak out too much when I run into an issue.
Were there big differences in the work culture between Alibaba and Facebook?
I can't generalize. Yeah, I was just one small guy working in one team in the whole company. But for sure, I think there's big differences in the Chinese culture and the Western culture. The Chinese, they have this. They're famous for doing 996, right? They work 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Monday through Saturday, and they just are really intense on their work. But also, they take naps in the middle of the day. Right? Really? Like from 1 p.m. or 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. It's like lights off in the office and everybody just like takes a nap on their desk. At least at Alibaba at the time. Yeah, and I've heard that some companies still do that in China. So they get
it's
a break.
It's like primary school. I mean, the primary school, kindergarten.
Yeah. Whereas in Western companies, right, it's more about the work-life balance, and you get your work done, but you also get your, they make time, more time for your personal life as well.
And not unless you work at Twitter, then you just don't get any time off. I had to throw that in. I apologize. No, like Dave's a big Elon Musk supporter, so he's just like, come on, Twitter. I don't know, man.
But I must say the people that I met at both companies have been some of the best hardworking engineers that I've worked with. Yeah.
Yeah, don't worry, Kai. We won't ask you to rate them one versus the other. Give me the name, Kai. Let's just put their faces side by side. Sorry, I'm gonna change tangent a little bit because I talked about Twitter and then like Elon Musk, and then I suddenly realized we actually do have a question about Elon Musk, and that was really about: do you kind of agree with his kind of doomsday outlook when it comes to AI?
I don't think AI has. Well, I mean, maybe I'm short-sighted, but I don't think AI has gotten close to it yet. I think even with current ChatGPT, it is still it's not sentient. It doesn't know.
Yeah.
It's just regurgitating things based on the probability that they would be said, but it doesn't know what's true and not true. And so in that sense, we're not close to this AI that is like, can like reason and can take over the world. But maybe Elon Musk is seeing things that I'm not seeing. I just don't think that we're that close. Even though the current thing is a super advancement and it's made the lives of software engineers better because we can be more effective at our jobs, I don't think we're close to that danger zone yet. That said, we're marching closer to it, whatever it is, the singularity, the AI that is omnipotent and can control the world. We are getting closer. And I don't think any letter from Elon Musk or Steve Wozniak or any famous people can stop that. Right? In fact, the more you tell people to stop, the more they're going to keep it, just like North Korea and missile program, right? Like the more you tell people to stop, the more they want to press on. And even if they don't, somebody else will. So we can't turn back the clock on technology. So we just have to embrace it. And it's not guns that kill people. It's people that kill people, right? So we just need to step up our efforts to make everyone aware of pros and cons of the technology.
We've touched on so many hot button topics during this podcast.
Yeah, North Korea's like my eyes lit up.
North
North
Korea.
Korea.
Educate the education system as well, and like mistakes in the education system. Then suddenly guns don't kill people, people kill people. It's like gun control, gun control. Yeah, wow, we've been touching some real. We might have to edit this podcast, Dave.
No, we won't. We're gonna make it stronger. But what was I going to ask? It was about AI. Yeah, it's interesting. Like when ChatGPT became popular, all of a sudden I'm seeing all these new AI, Adobe's coming up with AI. Everyone's doing AI. I was thinking, where are they getting the resources to suddenly have all, like, what kind of people do you need to suddenly, like, if you're a company, oh, we got to do it. Your CEO just, we need an AI product. Like, what the hell do you look for that? And where can you even find that?
Actually, it's just software engineers for the most part. It's software, just like the ones we were talking about coming out of Rocket Academy, not some, or universities even, right? And it's because most of these AI tools, they are already prepackaged. They're already prepackaged by companies like OpenAI, like Microsoft, Google, Amazon Web Services, etc., such that software engineers can just download them and use them to perform the AI. And of course, you can tweak it. There are certain parameters you can provide the models to tweak them to your needs. But all it takes is a software engineer who knows how to write software, and you can develop these things.
Is just because now it's...
We weren't doing it earlier because these models didn't exist.
Okay.
These models didn't exist earlier. Yeah, so you couldn't download them and use them. But all of a sudden last year, OpenAI launched this public model of the so-called large language model that they already trained based on all the data on the internet. And that's why suddenly this was able to be so powerful, because this model was already trained by them. And we haven't been able to do that in the past because computing power just hasn't been strong enough to do that, right?
They were estimating that OpenAI during the peak of everything was spending close to $3 million a day just on pure computing power and on storage costs and everything in order to run ChatGPT, which is why they started to scale back a little bit.
So platforms like Midjourney and Adobe Firefly, is that all based on the foundations of OpenAI?
That's a different technology. OpenAI has a different product for it. So there's a text product, which is like the ChatGPT, so-called large language model product that generates text. But then there's also the text to image products. So OpenAI has a product for that called DALL-E. And then of course the most famous one is probably Midjourney, which is the one that you mentioned, which you can enter a description for a picture in a particular style or format, and it'll generate it for you. You can even tweak it. You can say like, oh, less colorful and make it darker, stuff like that. And that's a different model and slightly different technology, but based on the same foundational principles.
Underlying concepts, right? Of this, basically, it's a learning model, but it's not the large language model from OpenAI, right?
And GPT-4, which is the latest model from OpenAI, in GPT-3 and the previous ChatGPT was only text, and GPT-4 is somehow allows it to integrate with images. I'm not sure on the details, so I'm not going to go too deep in here. But there's a way to use text to analyze images as well. But they're all based on the same foundational new AI breakthroughs in the last year or two.
Oh man, this is interesting. Also, I think if you go down the AI rabbit hole, right, you're just going to go into this weird conspiracy theory thing, or like it's super into the weeds of it being incomprehensible to most of our audience. So I'm going to make an executive decision that we don't go down that path, that path of no return. That usually happens when Dave and I have conversations about this stuff. We just go down some dark path about AI.
It's not even that philosophical or deep. It's just rubbish.
Yeah. It's not technically accurate. Yeah, there's no accuracy in it. It's just like a really dark path. No, but so Kai, what we actually really like to do though is we kind of like to understand you as an entrepreneur as well, because that's really important, right? Our audience is there as well, and I think your what you've done is really cool. So Dave and I, we try and read, but we don't read as much as I think we would like to. But do you have any like books, or like maybe 3 books that have positively impacted your life? Could be work, could be just life, could be anything.
Yeah. I think when I was thinking about this, I think the 3 books that I wanted to raise were the three books that inspired me from entrepreneurs. One of them is Robert Kwok's memoirs, which is written by Robert Kwok and an assistant. And yeah, just showcases his life growing up in Malaya at the time, and then Malaysia and Singapore, and tributes his mom, his late mother, and his late brother as two of the biggest inspiration in his life, which I thought was something. I was like, wow, like I would never have known that about him if I hadn't read this book. Right?
Who's Robert
And
Kwok?
Robert Kwok is the so-called sugar king, right? The person who is just a successful Malaysian entrepreneur who's now based in Hong Kong, and has grown from a sugar business to doing all kinds of businesses. I can't even, from logistics to hotels to commodities, and yeah, many, is a conglomerate at this point. But he's one of the most successful Southeast Asian entrepreneurs, and so that was an inspiration to read that. Another one was Shoe Dog by Phil Knight. Probably a lot of people mentioned this, but I found it inspirational.
Really
he not only talks about his journey, but I love that he focuses on the early days of Nike before it became wildly successful, because that's the part that most people are interested in, right? Like after it becomes successful, it's like whatever. But he talks about all the struggles, how, when he started, it was like 50-50 with him and his track coach, right? The track coach wasn't even working on the business. He was just, the track coach was just there for the name, because he was the US Olympic track and field coach. And so it's important to have him on board as a partner and co-founder. And yeah, I talked about how they were initially started off selling Japanese shoes, and then
Onitsuka Tigers,
right, and then the company decided to stop selling to them, and then they decided to create their own brand, which was game changing for them, and all the struggles involved with that. So I thought that was great. And then the third book that I would recommend is one that I read more recently. It's called Ride of a Lifetime by Bob Iger, who is the, I guess, current CEO of Disney.
Really
he left for a while and then came back. Yeah, and I thought the humility in all of these books, but also Bob Iger's book, was very outstanding. Like the humility of talking about how he started out in the regular ranks in not even Disney at the time, another news company, and all the long days and nights that he put in, and how he had, before he became CEO of Disney, he had this anxiety attack, and he even had to go to the hospital because he was so anxious. And he was nervous about presenting to the board and convincing them, and they had a bad year or two before that, so he was worried that they wouldn't believe that he could do the job. And yeah, so I thought the humility and the personal anecdotes that from these books that you wouldn't get from the regular news, I thought was great.
Do you have any life advice for budding entrepreneurs, people starting off?
Yeah, you're not alone. So when you are struggling, reach out for help. There are other entrepreneurs who are maybe at a similar stage or slightly ahead of you that want to give back and want to support you. And yeah, just don't feel like you're alone, because other people have experienced similar struggles, and sharing will help us get through it. Yeah.
Oh, that's really insightful. I don't agree with it because nobody wanted to help me, man. It's just like really alone when you start your own business.
Yeah.
Dave's always alone as well, so both of
Hey,
us,
thanks
both of us
for dragging me into your loneliness.
That's how it works, mate. Both of us were alone together. I think that's how I put it.
Holding hands.
Kai, this has been fascinating. Is there anything you want to share in particular? Anything that you want to kind of tell our listeners and our viewers?
I would like to share that for anyone who's interested in taking part in a Rocket Academy course, we have a discount code for our introductory course, of course. The code is BOD2020, BOD20, and it gives you $20 off our introductory coding course for those who are beginners. We are also, even though Rocket Academy is a Singaporean company, we recently expanded into Hong Kong. And so if you are listening in Hong Kong and you're interested to pick up coding, we would love to talk to you and see you in some of our courses sometime.
Yeah, awesome. What website can they go to check out the introductory course?
Yes, you can go to our main website, just rocketacademy.co. And the course is called Coding Fundamentals. You'll find the links to it on the website.
Right, promo code is BOD20, people. Support our show also. And we'll put all the links in the show notes for you. Yeah, well, thanks so much for coming on the show, Kyle. I actually wanted to go into that rabbit hole of AI with you, but we are mindful of your time. And thank you so much. Once again, everyone, check out Rocket Academy. They're doing great stuff, and they have great results. So check it out. And check us out, Business Over Drinks. We're everywhere. So search us on any social media platform or website, we're there. We're there. We're very desperate for your attention. So thanks, everyone. Thanks, Kai. See you in the next
Thanks,
episode.
Dave.